Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Today our topic is 2024 prophecies. We're going to back up and look at some of the prophecies that we are highly confident of, and I'm going to show you why it appears that some of them are going to come to pass in 2024, specifically the internal revolution, probably the earthquake. We're going to look at some of those and why we think it could be coming that soon. As a matter of fact, I think there's some other things about to happen even this year. All right, brief update on Berkey. Yes. Still at this point, Berkey filters are going away. They filed lawsuits to try to stop it, but at this point, until it's stopped, we have to assume there's not going to be any more Berkey. We have ordered and still can offer you 16 more Royals and 4 more filters. After that, as far as we know, they are gone. Those are the last of them. prophecyclub.com. It's not that Berkey has done anything wrong. As a matter of fact, it's because they're too good. I think it's because they can stop the bug. I dare not even say the word. We are expecting these new 16 Royals to be delivered in 3 to 4 weeks. And yes, people panic buying Berkey water filters. And I've said this again. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if they're not gone in the next 48 hours. Okay, so let's back up and look at this. So we know that Shane Warren, back in 2012, came and spoke to Prophecy Club and told us about a vision that he'd had, and essentially this is what's in the vision. I'm not going to go into the detail of the vision, but instead let's look at an overview because sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. Sometimes we miss it because we dig in too deep. So this time let's look at an overview. Okay, so we know we just had a hurricane that hit California, but it went all over the United States according to the weather people. And what Shane Warren saw is a hurricane that hit from the north, south, east, and west. Now the question we don't know for sure is this the hurricane he's talking about, or is that talking about some kind of financial hurricane? But the next thing he saw is dollars blowing worthless in the as leaves in the wind, and he was shown what causes our dollar to start dropping in value is when they start selling, specifically the Saudis, start selling oil and another currency other than the dollar. Well, 2 countries now have done that. So the dollar, I can say with confidence, is now in the process of falling. So this one happened in 2023. This one is probably going to happen in 2024 because January 1, the 41 BRICS countries have their gold-backed dollar come online January 1. So probably that's when our dollar, as a matter of fact, it may even be the first week of January. And what the prophecies have seen is that drops from 100% down 30%, 50%, 66% to 0, to worthless as leaves blowing in the wind. Now, obviously, I've told you many times, there's certain laws, okay? I can't give you financial advice. I can tell you that I have got some gold and silver from CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. But if you don't want to see, look, we just had Terry Saka on, and he explained, and I've also had a couple of articles on that says the banks have now changed the little fine print, that you'll get these things in the mail or in your email that says, we've changed our policies. And of course, nobody goes through all of the paperwork to find out what the little change was. But a lot of the changes are saying that we can confiscate the money in your account if we get in a financial jam. So these people are shrewd. These people are smart. Bible says that the people of, it's worded this way, the people of darkness are smarter than the children of the light. So probably, I'm not setting dates, probably the first quarter of next year, we can look for the dollar to start devaluing. And the prophecies say it doesn't happen gradually, it happens instantly, overnight, almost instantly. In other words, they push a button in the computer, and if you had $1,000 in there and it goes down 30% now, now you have $70 or $700. From $1,000 to $700 at the push of a button, and that's the way it happens. And it may be just not America, but it specifically is talking about America, but it may be other countries too. Anyway, so we know that oil has now already started to be sold in a currency other than dollars. 2 countries have already done it. Then he also saw we want our entitlements. What's going on in America right now, even as we speak? There's a lot of talk that the budget is not going to pass, and there's going to be a bunch of layoffs. And then, of course, we have the United Auto Workers in a big strike. It could be something as simple as that. It could be that there's simply a squabble. But apparently all of the money, the checks that come from the government will stop. How many of you out there are dependent on a check from the government to pay your bills, your rent, and car payments, maybe even food on the table? So you can imagine what would happen if all of those came to a stop. That's what they say is going to happen. And that gold-backed bricks comes into effect January 2024. Now hang on, I'm about to show you a whole bunch more stuff. Then in the middle of that, he was shown that there's going to be a New Madrid earthquake that's up the center of the country. And we have what? I don't know, I forget how many, 12, 14 prophecies say that's coming. Now, hang on to that. Let's go on to the next point. Let me refresh your memory. I'm trying to give you an overview. I'm trying to show you that these kind of things could very well happen in 2024. I'll remind you that Dimitri Duduman had the angel Gabriel come to him in 1984 and told him the fall of America would start with an internal revolution in America, started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government would be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, and 2 of the countries he could not remember will attack and defeat America in 1 day and 1 hour. We now know that one of those nations will be North Korea, and another one of those nations will be Iran, and that's probably not all. Probably Iraq is going to be with them too. Anyway, now, Dimitri was told that in 1984. So add 40 years to that. What does that come up to? That would be 2024. So is it reasonable to assume that since it rained 40 days and 40 nights, since Moses is on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, since Jesus fasted 40 days and 40 nights, since he was tested 40 days and 40 nights, 40 is the number of judgment. Is it reasonable to assume that we could see the internal revolution 40 years later? Yes, I think so. That would put it at 2024. Now I have your attention. Now let's look at that. Let's say the internal revolution does start. Let's say God gave America 40 days to repent and turn back to him. Okay, 84 to 2024. Let's say that we somehow knew absolutely positively, and by the way, we don't, let's say somehow we knew absolutely positively that the internal revolution starts in 2024. What would that do for our scenario, the timeline, what we see coming? All right, let's take a look at a couple of things. Omer ushers in Palestinian state. These are the 7 newspaper headlines Leslie was shown in a dream, January 22 of 06. That's where the Lord spoke audibly to her. The first thing she heard was, Israel refuses help to America. So this is not necessarily the order of their fulfillment. I have rearranged them based upon what I think would be the correct order. But we do not know. Okay, I want to make clear that. We do not know the order. Also, he didn't explain to us what Omer is. We think it's the counting of the Omer, which I'm going to get to in just a second. Okay. So if this is the correct order, Omer ushers in Palestinian state. Catastrophe hits America. As I just said to Leslie just a few minutes ago when I was showing her an article headline that is going to blow you away, and I'll show you in just a second. It may very well be that when we split Israel, the very next day is when the New Madrid fault hits us. She said, you don't know that. And I said, yes, I do know that. She says, how? And I said, because every time America has turned against Israel, every time America has done something wrong to Israel, boom, just like that, the very next day, God hits America. So is God going to change the way he deals with America and Israel? No. Okay, so that means when we split Israel, the very next day we can look for it. We can look for the catastrophe hits America, and that would be a new Madrid fault, earthquake. How do you know that? Because we have 12 prophecies that say that if America splits Israel, God will split America. And that would be the Great Lakes splitting all the way down to, Leslie saw Tupelo, Mississippi. Others have seen it all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. So I assume it's just how bad we treat Israel is how bad God treats us. Okay, so Omer ushers in Palestinian state catastrophe hits America. That could very well happen next year, and I'm going to show you an article in just a second about why I think that. In the meantime, let's look at this. So, what is Omer ushers in Palestinian state? Well, if you go to the scriptures, it says that the 49 days between first fruits and Pentecost is what is called by the Jews the counting of the Omer. Now, we don't know for certain if that's what God's talking about, but that's our best guess. And we've known this since 2006, and this is our best guess on it. Okay, so that's the 49 days of the counting of the Omer between first fruits and Pentecost. In next year, in 2024, the days in the pink are the 49 days between first fruits and Pentecost, which would be the counting of the Omer, which means let's look here, if they come up with a peace agreement sometime during these days from April 25th to June 13th, any place in those 49 days, the newspaper could very well say Omer ushers in Palestinian state, meaning the counting of the Omer, okay? Now, once that happens, then the very next day, a catastrophe, a New Madrid fault earthquake hits us. Then the next headline would very easily read, probably even the next day. I mean, as in day 1, day 2, day 3. One of America's greatest times of need. That could be the third day newspaper. Then we would then call for all the world to help us, and of course we would turn to our very best friend, Israel. And Israel refuses help to America. No. You just gave away part of our land? No, we're not going to help you. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Then the Arabs say, ho, now you've alienated America by not helping them. So if America is not going to help you, that's the perfect time for us to attack. So then the Arab countries attack Israel, and America does send troops. But not everybody in America is a Christian. Not everybody holds the Jews to be the chosen people of God. And when we send troops to Israel, they say, wait a minute, when we got hit with that big earthquake, Israel didn't send us any help. Why should we send any help to Israel? And so the headline reads, chaos reigns as Americans protest help to Israel. That makes perfect sense too, doesn't it? Then she heard my voice quoting Dmitri Duduman. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. Okay, so let's put this together. If the counting of the Omer happens next year, and during that time, during these days, there is some kind of a peace accord with Israel, then we know what's coming pretty much for the rest of the year. We can look at that and say, yep, that's coming. Okay, now let's go on to the next one. Saudi deal could be in place early 2024. I didn't write it. Jerusalem Post wrote this. Okay, that's huge. That's big. So it goes on to say Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said in a U.S. television interview, which I watched, that his country was moving steadily closer to normalizing relations with Israel. He went on to say the gaps can be bridged. I saw him say that. The gaps can be bridged. It will take time, but there is progress. And I also want to say this. I looked carefully into, what's his name? Mohammed bin Salman. I looked carefully into his eyes, and I watched his demeanor, his nonverbal language, and I think he was at peace. I think that he felt good talking to Brett with Fox News in the interview. and he seemed like a nice guy. I think from everything in his demeanor, I think that they are working and they probably are going to be putting in some kind of a peace agreement. Probably, just as he's about to say, the first quarter of 2024. The gaps can be bridged. It will take time, but there's progress. I think there is certainly a likelihood that, this is him saying, this is Saudi Arabia king, the first quarter of 2024, 4 or 5 months hence. Okay, this is the leader of Saudi Arabia saying he thinks they'll have an agreement early 2024. Well, why is that important? I'll tell you why it's important, because right here, that's in the early part of 2024. January, February, March is the first quarter. April, May, June, all of that is with, he says here, look, 4 to 5 months hence means in the next 45 months. Okay, what is that? It's close enough for government work, okay? He goes on to say, 4 to 5 months hence, it will be able to be at a point where the details of the deal are finalized. For us, the Palestinian issue is very important. We need to solve that part, and we have a good negotiation strategy until now. Okay, now let's tie that together with this set of prophecies. You remember this. Chris Reed, March 25th, 2022, had an angel visit him and stood in front of him with a $50 bill, which he felt like represented the 50 United States of America. And the angel tore off 1/3 of the dollar bill. Now, I'm going to move through this quickly, but I'm going to back up and tie it together because you got to see the overview. Okay, so headline, people start handling newspapers with these headlines. U.S. dollar drops 30% in value. Middle Eastern oil strikes deal with China instead of the U.S. See, that ties together with what Terry Bennett was shown. Shane Warren, excuse me. The perfect storm, subtitle, inflation reaches a new high. Food shortage crisis as wheat and bread imports are at a stalemate. That fits with what Cornerstone was told. Then he said he saw the angels take another $50 bill and tear it in half, meaning the value of the dollar then dropped to 50%. Why? Because they're selling oil and some other currency other than the dollar, and people don't need so many dollars, and so the market is aflush with dollars. Then, here's the point that I'm getting to. Riots and civil unrest as citizens demanded title checks, an earthquake happened under my feet. That could very well be what we're talking about here. That could very well be the dollar starts falling, there's riots and unrest and in the spirit, and God says, okay. And about that time, point number 5 is Israeli-Palestinian two-state solution is reached, means they split Jerusalem. Next day, major earthquake hits the middle of the United States. The next day, America calls for help. Israel says, I'm not going to help. And that explains America in pieces. Now, that's not pieces just from an earthquake. I think it's pieces because it says more states secede from the nation in rebellion to the federal government. Then, here's your internal revolution. U.S. military takes charge as uncertainty looms over the federal government. Now, why is this important? Let me go back to... Okay, so now let me point out some things on the calendar here. Okay, so the BRICS currency that's gold-backed goes live first part of January. Then from April 25 to June 13 is the counting of the Omer. That would be the time, if they're going to split Israel, that would fulfill Omer ushers in Palestinian state. Then it could be the very next day the earthquake hits. The very next day is the next headline. As America's calling for help from everybody. The next day headline, Israel refuses to help America. I mean, it could be all in this time. We've seen all of that. Then we have the presidential election coming up here. Now, what does that mean? Well, between now and the election, we got 4 indictments filed against Trump. It could very well be, I do not know for certain, but it could very well be that in one of those indictments, they have it all set up. You know, these people are ruthless. You have to understand, they have the heart of the devil, and they will stop at nothing to get their man, the Antichrist, on the throne. So one of those indictments, they actually find him guilty. Now, I mean, he can get on social media and holler and scream and bawl and get mad all he wants to. But when the handcuffs go on him, the handcuffs go on him. Handcuffs go on him. They put him in jail. All of a sudden, the Marines say, that's it. We've had enough. We're not going to put up with this. And now let's back up and look at that. So is this here? Military takes charge as uncertainty looms over the federal government. Could all of these take place in 2024? Answer, yes. Do I know that they will? No, I do not. Has God told me they will? No, God. Believe me, I've asked. No, God has not told me. I keep asking. Believe me, I've asked him. As a matter of fact, I just told him again 2 nights ago in my prayer closet. I said, Lord, please send an angel to me so I can get all my questions answered. There was no answer. He doesn't talk to me enough. Anyway, so all of a sudden we see American pieces. In other words, there's arguments, there's fussing in America. Could that be over not only the border, but also the way they're treating Trump? And then all of a sudden, U.S. military takes charge. That's the internal revolution Dmitry spoke about. That would fit because Dmitry had the angel Gabriel come to him in 1984. Add 40 years, you're at 2024. Now, do I know that that's going to? No, I don't. But it could very well be. Then, a new dollar bill like a cell phone. Remember the 9-year-old boy, I believe it was 9, maybe he was 11 years old, that had the dream, and his parents quizzed him about it several times, and nothing changed in the dream. They could not trip him up. And he said he saw them, that there's going to be people carrying a new thing that looks like a cell phone, but you couldn't make phone calls on it. He says it was only for like buying things and passports and driver's license. In other words, it's your form. You don't get a chip in the hand, you get a chip in your purse. You get a chip in your pocket because you're carrying it in a device similar to a cell phone. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? New dollar bill like a cell phone with George Washington's face on it, and the headline read, New Currency for a Renewed Nation. Why do they call it a renewed nation? Because just like several people have seen, there's massive arrests. Remember, I told you I heard 4 words, massive arrests, massive arrests. And I was asleep at the time. I don't know if it was an audible voice or just a voice in my heart. I mean, I heard words, massive arrests, massive arrests. So I'm convinced that massive arrests really are coming. I think it is the Christians, the white hats, the good guys, in their attempt to try to take over and clean up our nation. The problem is it just doesn't work. America has gone too far down the road of filth and corruption for her to turn around. Just too much evil. And so God just says, I'm just going to have to wipe it all out. Okay, so what is the whole point? I'm trying to say that this could very well be big time between now and the end of next year. We could see that fall of the dollar start now even. We could see a food shortage. But I'm pretty sure, I'll put it this way. I think we have a 70% chance of seeing some shocking events taking place in 2023. But I'll say I think we have a 100% chance of seeing some shocking events taking place in 2024. So the way I see it, based upon the prophecies, God hadn't told me anything. I keep asking, he hadn't told me anything. So BRICS goes live here. Someplace in here, the dollar starts losing value. Down 30%, down 50%, down 66%, down to 100%. Also, they cut off the dollar. Where's my entitlements? People protest, where's my entitlements? And then here comes counting the Omer. Oh, then all of a sudden, Omer ushers in Palestinian state. Catastrophe hits America. And the other prophecies given. And it could very well be that by here, 6 of those 7 prophecies have hit. And then if Trump is arrested any place in here, that could be the internal revolution. Here's another thing, another scenario. Okay, so he's not arrested in the indictments, but there's cheating in the election again. And the prophecies didn't say he won the election. They said he was appointed president. And it didn't even say president, because president, it means there's a corporation. The prophecies say, according to Henry Gruver, that he was a king. In other words, they didn't bring back, how do I say it? They didn't bring back the Constitution. They didn't bring back the all-capital corporation. They started a new nation. In an attempt to try to save America, it just doesn't work. So, do I know any of this is going to happen? I know it's going to happen. I do not know it's going to happen by 2020 or the end of 2024. What I'm trying to say is, if you want a water filter, you best be getting at it. If you want to have gold and silver while it can still be shipped to you, then you better be calling Cornerstone, assetmetals.com. If you want your cell phone and your car to start and other things like that, you best get you an EMP Shield device on your home and your car. EMPShield.com, promo code Prophecy. Yes, it helps your Prophecy Club. But if you want your car to start, not a joke, okay, I got 33 prophecies say suitcase nukes do get set off in America. I think I'm getting closer to say, I'm not ready to say for sure, but I'm getting closer to saying we're in the tribulation. I think that if the internal revolution starts, I don't know, maybe that'll be it. But what I am trying to say is, brothers and sisters, you better get ready. You better ask Jesus into your heart. You better ask Jesus to forgive your sins. You better build a prayer closet, get yourself into a church. You're going to need a church. You are going to need friends that are Christians. And by the way, even if it's a pre-trib church, even if they're believing or teaching out of an NIV, you're still going to need friends. You're going to need help. And they will quickly convert to your way of thinking once the suitcase nukes hit or a big earthquake hits. And, you need to get into a church. I'm telling you, you need to get into a church. Go there. Make friends. Be a friend. You heard it said to have a friend, be a friend. Good idea. Get yourself prepared. I thought this was real interesting. These two calves, were born, one the day before and one on September 25th of 2014, which just happens to be a Shemitah. A Shemitah means 7, like 2 means, or a couple means 2, or a dozen means 12. In Hebrew, Shemitah means 7. And so I believe the prophecy is saying that it started 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. 7 years of plenty because the black and white cow has a perfect 7 on his forehead. The red cow has a scribbled 7 on his forehead. What are the chances both those cows are born within 24 hours and released to the public on the same day? I think it's of God saying 7 years of plenty started in 2014 and 7 years of famine started in 2021 and concludes to 2028. That's still in the ballpark. A lot of people think it's the tribulation. Now, that would mean that we are at this point in a famine. So what do? You do what Joseph did. The world lived off of bread. But in all the land of Egypt there was bread. The people cried to Pharaoh for bread. That's wheat. So the world lived off of wheat for 7 years, and I'm going to recommend you do the same thing. We have had 150 food sources destroyed the last 18 months. No arrests, we've had train derailments, China stopped container ships, threatening to stop all of them, Russia attacked Ukraine, breadbasket. Our food is under attack. Klaus Schwab says you will own nothing but be happy. They're in the process of taking everything we own. This is a loaf of bread I actually cooked. I actually cooked this. And as a matter of fact, I've already had a slice of bread this morning. And I've noticed that as long as I have at least one slice a day, I feel okay. It's best if I have 2 slices, like one for breakfast, one for lunch. Even if I'm not hungry, it's not that I'm eating it for food or because I'm hungry. It's because my body demands it. So josephkitchen.com, they can point you to get the right wheat, all the wherewithal you need to make bread. 1 loaf cut into 14 slices. If you eat 2 slices a day, I find that about 1 loaf feeds 1 person per week. 1 slice breakfast, 1 slice dinner, better nutrition, long storage life, some 3,000 years, 10 minutes to make bread machine. The weakness is the electricity, but if you go to josephkitchen.com, they can show you how to solve all of those problems. So what is an EMP Shield device? It's a device you can put on your car and your house that in an EMP attack is supposed to stop the attack. And if you go to EMPShield.com and if you use the promo code Prophecy, they give you a $50 discount. They also have videos up there, shows you how to install it on your car and your house and everything, and it's not difficult at all. I've got one of them right here. Red goes to red, black goes to black, green goes to the car, body of your car, and you just peel it off the back, stick it under there. Got another device that goes on your house. So not complicated. Take you about 10 minutes to put them in. So EMPShield.com, promo code is Prophecy. And I'll send you to prophecyclub.com to get your Berkey water filter. I'll send you over to josephkitchen.com to get yourself some food. Look, you know, with wheat, you can feed a lot of people, healthy lot, and for not much money. So I'll recommend, here's what I suggest. If you're short on cash, you want to have at least this one here, the Big Berkey, at least. And you'd be good if you have a couple of extra filters. Then, if you really want to be prepared, if you want to have enough for, you know, for your neighborhood, then this is what I recommend. And you can put 8, it says comes with 6, but you can put 8 filters. I have one that has 8 filters, and all of my water goes through that. Even sometimes I run tap water through it, but whatever runs through it, I don't drink any water. It doesn't come out of that because I know I can trust it. I know that what comes out of that is pure. Matter of fact, Leslie had a vision, actually, on a Sunday morning during praise and worship. Back in 2011, she says there's going to be something put into our water system in many cities of this nation. People begin to get sick and some will die. Well, Vicky Parnell had a dream about that, was warned. They are literally going to try to kill a lot of Americans. Literally. They're going to try to poison them. I know this is hard to believe, but you better, hey, look, if you think we're in the tribulation, then you got to understand these kind of things are coming. Many turn to drinking bottled water. Environmentalists complain about that. Okay. My children that have ears, make sure you have a good, reliable water filter. You will not be able to trust the tap water or bottled water. The only thing you can trust is my word. Trusting me, says the Lord. You must get something to filter the water. You're going to need it. And if you'll go to Brighton.com, and if you'll look this up and watch this, just watch, it's called Watch the Water, you will understand that they are getting ready to poison. Some say that they're already poisoning the water. Berkey water filters, the only thing I trust. Terry Saka, Cornerstone, assetmetals.com. The world seems to be falling apart financially. Why should they call Cornerstone assetmetals.com today?
Well, the FDIC insurance fund is now empty. Not only is it empty, it's at zero. So now all bank bailouts are going to have to come from taxpayers. This could result in trillions of new currency notes being printed. The more they print, the more inflation we're going to have, potentially hyperinflation, and we need to protect ourselves away from that dollar.
Cornerstone assetmetals.com. Go online or give them a call at 888-747-3309. Cornerstone assetmetals.com. You don't have to get anything today. Just give them a call and say, hey, here's my situation. What do you suggest?